here is a starter problem for everybody. I have a equation, y equals, I know it doesn't say y equals, but well, let's just imagine that it did. Y equals 2 sine of 3 pi x plus 7. You should be able to name the amplitude, the period, the phase shift, and the midline. Everybody figure that one out? We're going to do a little bit of review with this. We're going to do a little actual real graphing. And then we'll just mostly answer questions about the lab and give you time to work on the lab. Then today is unusual because today we also have the, I'll be putting up the news show link, which will show you the Pep Fest, but that doesn't happen until after this class. So I am to take attendance both during this class and during the Pep Fest at the end of the day. So bottom line, don't leave. If you leave, I have to mark you absent. I mean, if you have to go somewhere and you just have to leave, I'm not going to tackle you at the door. I'm just going to mark that you're leaving. Yes?
You have to go for freshman reps this hour?
I did hear that there was something about that. I assume that they will give us some sort of a prompting on that, but then again, how about this? Would you be willing, since you obviously mentioned it, would you be willing to go in and see if it'll let you in to do the vote?
Yeah, the story's there.
It is there?
They said there would be like more speeches on the announcements because they
You know what? I'm going to go look at that right now and see if there's any speeches going on that news show link. So give me just a sec. Oh, much wow. You're right. There we go. And I know she's too quiet. I'll get it improved.
And active.
Oh.
A stands for attitude. Always bring a positive attitude and energizing spirit and pride to our school. I hope these 5 Tonka reasons inspire you to vote for me, Cameron Carlson, for sophomore representative. Go Skippers!
My name is Max Borkert, and I am running for the position of sophomore representative for next school year. I plan to serve as a voice for the student body by actively listening to my peers to ensure that everybody makes the most out of the incoming school year. As a representative for our class, exemplified by fulfilling our school's 2 core values.
Okay, so let's see if you would have had these right. First off, the amplitude was 2. It's just the number in the front, isn't it? Well, kind of. It's the absolute value of the number in the front. So if there's ever a negative number up front, be careful. The amplitude cannot be negative. Do you get that? All right, next thing. Period. The period's normally 2 pi. But then you just have to divide by whatever's in front of it. Oh, you guys can't see what's on my screen. All right, so I have it displaying, but it's not displaying there. Let's try this. Thank you. Okay, so 2 pi over that. And 2 pi over 3 pi is great, except that the pi's can cancel, so the period is 2/3. It's a little strange, but it's true. Next up, phase shift. There was no phase shift. That 7 is not a phase shift. That 7 is a vertical shift. And that 7 is also the midline. If you wrote y equals 7, that's what it really is. It's a line that goes straight across a horizontal line at 7. All right, now let's actually try graphing one. Imagine, I'm going to just do one tougher one. Instead of sine, I'm going to do cosecant because it'll make you draw a sine to even start this problem. So let's do 4 cosecant of 3x. Everybody graph that one. I'm going to ask different people for different parts of it. Put the cell phones off the desk for now. I was fine with them during those speeches, but I need your full attention for the next few. We'll go back to laid back mode in a bit. All right, I hope you started with sine. Why? Because this one rides on the back of sine. Sine tells you where all the asymptotes should be. Sami, tell me something about that 4 in the front. How would that affect your graph? The ones changed to 4s, yep. Okay, so now I got 4 and negative 4. And next, I need asymptotes in here. Can you tell me where the asymptotes would be?
Where the function hits the x-axis.
Yes, so like 0, and what's the next one? And what's the next one? All right, awesome. Now those numbers are about to change. Know how to do it? Know how to change based on this 3 in the problem? You know how to change something? Divide them all by 3. Divide by 3, or multiply by 1/3, or divide by 3, or multiply by 1/3. And this is pi over 6. And that tells me so much right there. Pi over 6. Then this is 2 pi over 6. And this is 3 pi over 6, which is the same as pi over 2. And this is 4 pi over 6. I like those so much that I don't even make you reduce them. Okay. Then, it isn't cosecant until you put in the loops. Like that. And now, it would be extremely messy for me right now to try to erase all of the superfluous stuff. Anyway, the red part, I could erase that right now, and that would be the right answer. I was going to have you try to do group work, but then tons of our time got sucked up with the videos there, so I'm just going to kind of cut right to the chase. How many of you feel comfortable? You feel like you've got this graphing thing down? Okay, and I'm seeing lots of hands. Now, if you're the kid who is not really feeling comfortable right now, and you just don't want to say it in front of everybody, it would be very smart for you to come in. I am going to make our help day be at 11 a.m. on Monday. So if you want extra help, I'll be sitting in the virtual room, and there'll probably only be a few kids that'll show up. Get some help if you're like, you still don't get tangent or whatever. All right. Now, how about the lab? I can't do this on the video, but I'm going to just talk more about how to use that website in particular. The middle one of the 3 we gave you, that's the best one for finding which the longest day of daylight would be. And here's the thing, you don't see it right away, but if you look close in the middle of the 3 websites, what you'll see is a blank at the top where you got to type in the city name. Let's say you're doing Chicago. Type in Chicago there. And then that's the moment where it pulls up the graph for you. And you see this graph where it gets narrow and wide. And the wide part of the graph, that's where the sun is, there's a lot of sun on the wide part of the graph. So basically, you can just touch it right on your iPad, and it'll tell you, oh, on this date, you'd have this much sunlight. All right? Then remember that you have to get 15 data points. So some of you that are just Googling, what is the largest number of hours of sun in Chicago? And they'll be like, oh, that happens on June 26th or whatever. You'd have to do that 15 times. I would get the data from this website. Okay? Now, maybe what I just told you there is enough, but I'm going to give you one last hot tip. A lot of people get this wrong on the lab. They have this beautiful graph. They've typed it into Desmos, and they've typed in their points, and the points are all on the graph. They take a screenshot, they put it in, and yet I mark it wrong. Why? What? Labels, yes. People forget that they got to label their X and the Y axis and have a title. Make sure to do that. Next thing. At the very end of your lab, this thing called the conclusion and reflection. A lot of people somehow think that the conclusion doesn't need to be in the conclusion. Because, well, I had the answer earlier. The whole point of that section is, if a person just wants to get the overview, they can read the purpose of the lab, and they can read the conclusion and see what the answer was. The purpose of the lab, to determine if mice live a longer life based on what they drink. And then you do the lab, and you feed some of them tea their whole life, and you feed some of them water their whole life, and you actually find out that if you feed a mouse tea its entire life, it will live longer. Isn't that interesting? There are some mice that have lived their entire life without drinking a drop of water. They only got tea. And they lived longer for it, probably because of the antioxidants that are in the water. So anyway, of course, these were British mice, and therefore could be different. You know, they really like their tea. Back to our purpose. Our purpose is to write a sinusoidal equation for a city that tells, you know, I'm not going to say everything you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say it in your own words. And then the conclusion, you do include the conclusion. Okay, and then what else? The 3 reflections, they can't be weak things like I use trig in the real world. It's just too generic. You got to be more specific. Okay? All right, that's the plan for today, is to work on the lab. And I think that's all I have for the video for today. There's no new homework being assigned. If I were you, I'd just work on the lab. And I'm going to assign that Schoology quiz that you see in there right now. I'm actually going to wait on that until you come back to class on Tuesday. We have a review day Tuesday, and then Wednesday is the actual test. Okay? That's all I have for the video for today.